on a quest at the end, and he obviously drinks water instead of the alcohol. So I think again, that's another way I think there's some slight hope, I guess. But I don't know. I do kind of wonder what they are up to just in general. Like I think you're right, Justin, that they they're out on whatever adventure they're on. They stumble across this bar, and it just happens to be no blanks. Yeah. But like what are they up to outside of that? I guess.
Sure.
What do they talk about?
They just follow their leader, King Gary.
Yeah, it's King Gary. He's so. Oh man, Simon Pegg in this. It hit me hard the first time I watched it, just unraveling everything, like an onion, where he's, at first you wonder kind of what he's about. He's in maybe like a halfway house or like an AA. And then something's clearly wrong with him, lying all the time, doing all this. He's trying to drag his friends to get drunk again to kind of recreate what he didn't have. But then it's all drenched in sadness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know. It makes it a lot more, but I like how they slowly do it. And it's never too strong. Like they never play it for melodrama, I guess. It's never melodramatic, his reveal.
I think that it's a painful way to look at addiction. Like it's looking at addiction in a comedic lens because the movie is funny and it is a comedy, but it allows for the space to tell the story about the pains of addiction and what it can do and what it can cause you to do and the hurt that you can put upon other people, even people you love. And so I think that that's why this one is so much quote unquote better to me than the other two, which again, I love Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, but I feel like this one goes into some waters that the first two just don't. And I think that it's all the Gary story.
I think especially I think it's Shaun of the Dead and more so Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, but I think there's a little bit under the surface, but you're right. It's way more obvious, or not obvious, but like apparent here. And I think a lot of why it works, kind of like the tone at least that you guys are talking about, is because of like his performance, like especially in the first half or so of the movie, those early scenes where they're just kind of introducing everyone and he's going around and like he's playing those scenes so comedically, and it helps the movie move so fast through those scenes and keeps the tone like light and fresh and fun, and then it slowly kind of evolves into something much different and deeper and sadder. But he leaves that stuff, the screenplay, kind of what we're talking about, leaves those little droplets early in the movie, and then you kind of eat them up later.
And I don't think he's revered in any way. Like I don't feel like Gary is this character that like the movie looks at as like this shining figure. I think that it shows him as flawed the entire time, and then you just get the reason for that later on, and so then he becomes more sympathetic instead of someone you hate. And so I think there you start to understand maybe why he's going through and doing the things he's doing, and I think that's why again it all kind of comes together.
Yeah, Sam looks at him and is like, "You just look sad. What happened to you?" Like, oof. But yeah, he did follow into the rest of them.
Nothing is what he says. It's like, yeah, you didn't you didn't go live your life like everyone else. You just stopped growing at 18 or 19 or whatever it was.
The two scenes.
He threw 8 touchdowns in one game, and they lived in England.
The two scenes with him and Rosamund Pike with Sam's character, with Sam, those two scenes, he reveals himself to be more of what he actually is than the front he puts on with his friends. Both the scene in the bathroom and then the scene at the end when he lets her go in the car. Like those are the two where he's like a little bit more honest and kind of shows himself. And so it's interesting that he can't be that in a large group, but then on a smaller scale, he is.
Oh, wow. Like, take the pipe. What a great commercial moment when he jumps on the car.
Yeah.
Slams on that thing. I also love what they said about him, too, where they just said, he's going to live longer than all of us. Mm-hmm. Like, he is the guy that lives, even though he has his battles with addiction and who knows the dark places he's been, with like suicide attempts. For some reason, Gary King he's a survivor, and he's going to go around murdering people in this post-apocalyptic world in these bars.
He finds the racist humans and goes, racist is the wrong word, but whatever is where you hate the blanks. I'm not sure what you would call it. But.
Yeah. So, Mark, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
So Pierce Brosnan is in this, very short, but he has a very memorable role in this, right?
Uh-huh.
Timothy Dalton, of course, is in Hot Fuzz, another Bond. So there is no Bond in Shaun of the Dead, but what I wanted to pose to you is, which Bond would you like to have seen in Shaun of the Dead, and what type of role in that movie would they have played?
In a perfect world, Bill Nighy would have been a James Bond in the past, and then that would have been it. But we can't have that. We can't have that. So then, okay, so you have, well, all right, well, it's got to be, let's see. So we have people at the bar dancing around. You have the bosses. Let's see.
Because I got a couple for you.
Okay, because the tone, the way I'm thinking about it, just the way that plays out, maybe, the scene where they walk through the garden and it's all like their lookalikes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was like Bill Nighy still walking and then Roger Moore and they kind of look at, well, they don't even look alike though. But if they were dressed alike, that would make me really happy because I love both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Connery? Oh, man. Well, Connery as Sean?
Oh, sweet. No. I was going to go more like Connery as the Bill Nighy character.
Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
I want Connery as Sean. I'm just Sean. Hanging out with Nick Frost on the couch playing video games. That's it.
That'd be a great movie.
I gotta go get my mom. I'm gonna shave her. Imagine that movie. He's working at the store arguing with Ray Spall. He has red on his shirt.
Yeah.
Just him running around all frazzled and jumping over fences.
Wait, but is this 2003, 2004, whenever that came out, Sean Connery, or is this like James Bond era Sean Connery?
Well, he was still spry. He was in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen at the time. He was beating people up. So yeah, right. Never mention his age.
Got it.
Like he's Sean's age, but he's Sean Connery. Whoa!
So is it Shaun of the Dead, SEAN of the Dead now?
Yep,
is it
Shaun of the Dead.
So is it a meta movie where it's actually Sean Connery?
No, it's Sean. It's that Sean.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just Sean. My girlfriend doesn't understand me. Like just yelling at him, hitting zombies, whapping zombies to Queen. Sean Connery. That's the movie I want to see. Imagine that. And then switch not Nick Frost. Switch. Why can't I think of Simon Pegg. Make him Lucy's friend's boyfriend. That guy.
Okay.
Oh yeah, David. Is that his name in the movie?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds right.
I like him in that movie, but yeah, switch him over. Perfect cast. Oh man, I do love me some Dalton in Hot Fuzz. I'm a slasher.
Dalton is great in Hot Fuzz.
Oh,
yeah,
that movie with the Andes. Anything with the Andes and their mustaches. There's a lot of pub themes in these films, isn't there?
Yeah, both of the Andes are. I mean, Considine obviously is in World's End, but I forget the actor's name, but he shows up. He's the one they're showing the house to early on. He's the husband in the couple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then they get shown a house later on at the end of the movie.
They do, yeah. Because there's always people looking for houses, and they just can't find them.
Like the beginning mirrors the end of the movie. Like they're repeating those scenes over and over again. It's just another like way the screenplay is concise and shows its ideas in the visuals. I guess it's really really good stuff.
Instead of hiding, he rips his hand off and lets it play on his head for his kids.
Yeah. Everything's foreshadowed. Like literally that opening, scene where, Gary tells what happened on that first night. It all like happens. Like it's just great. Even that thing about calling Oliver that he's just all mouth, that they describe him as that. And then literally at the end, he becomes literally just a mouth because his head is gone. I don't know. It's just like even something as small as that is just, it blows my mind how specific the screenplay is.
You could do one of those like Screen Rant or BuzzFeed articles where just like 7,000 things that we noticed in the World's End in this film. And that wouldn't be enough. But I mean, I guess he's been writing this since he was 21. So at 21, he went to, you probably heard this on the commentaries, he went back home and people didn't recognize him. And so then he kind of thought, oh gosh, like I came home, no one recognizes me, I have this feeling. And then he also said he wishes he was more active during those years as opposed to just kind of doing nothing and not doing that. And then also he doesn't like all the pubs now that have the fake chalk writing on the wall. So he combined all these different elements into one. And I think they still really work. And you can tell they're from different parts of his life. Like 21, you have that very specific feeling. I mean, probably when you're 35, you're a different human. But I think he was able to blend them all really, really well together and adapt that screenplay.
I think that's kind of the genius of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the genius of the screenplay and the movie as a whole. Like he's able to kind of look at middle age and look at youth and kind of make these points about each one, about, freedom and constraint of the middle age, and like just kind of contrast them off one another and ask like, which one would you rather have? And I think I guess what's optimistic, going back to that original point, is that like all of the choices are on the table. Like Gary's allowed to go do what he chooses to do, like, and he wants to kind of live in the past and have these followers follow him, whereas the rest of them grow up and have families and careers and whatnot. And that's the choice they made. And I think the movie puts all that on kind of even playing field. And I think that's really, really smart and wise, I guess.
And Nick Frost is telling children a very long story. So children a very long story. I don't know.
I mean, what else is there to do?
Yeah, I guess tell stories.
Yeah, that's it.
I would tell a beautiful Deep Blue Sea story. Oh, that'd be great. Oh my gosh, I would love that. So, and then I guess one thing I want to ask you about these fights. There's a lot of them, and they're a lot of fun. And they brought in some expert choreographers for these fights. What do y'all think about them? I mean, they're if you think about Shaun of the Dead, right? It felt quite grounded in reality, but then Hot Fuzz went the full action route, same as like Point Break, Bad Boys 2, and then this one, it's just these four sort of blokes who just get into some pretty gnarly fights with some pretty wild choreography. I mean, did y'all love those fights? Like, did they feel out of place for you? I mean, because there's some times where like Nick Frost will do an elbow drop on a blank's head when he could just stomp it. Like it's like there's a lot of unnecessary, like I wouldn't say unnecessary, but super flashy moments. I mean, do y'all love that, or is that part of the charm of the movie, or did it take you out? Yes.
No, I actually did write that down this past time too. That it's interesting that these average Joes happen to be able to just destroy a room full of these things. But I think it does go towards like that whole big scene at the end where, you know, the network and Bill Nye's voice when he's talking, that like, I don't think that they're necessarily violent. They're there to like, you know, manipulate in small ways. They're not really fighting aliens or fighting whatever things that they are. So I don't know that they actually have like combat abilities. And so they make even these guys look like, you know, master fighters. That's the first part. The second part is they're all drunk. Aren't we all bigger than ourselves when we're drunk anyway? Yeah. Like they're fighting this way because they are drunk. And so of course they are.
You get that liquid courage.
Yeah.
So I was a bouncer for like 6 years, and I tossed out a lot of drunk people out of the bars. It's just haymakers, and then they get tired. And then if they can walk out of the bar, I let them walk. And if they just fall on the ground and like, I just pick them up and throw them out. So they're pretty good for about 20 seconds, I would say. And then it all goes downhill after a few windmills. But, yeah, but I guess the fights were better in the beginning when they're at the first bar, right? Yeah, and then they go along.
I do feel like the best use of the fight scene is that very first one, because it basically turns into a completely different movie, right? The whole time it's been this movie about this damaged guy getting his friends back together, and then it turns into, you know, this science fiction action comedy, not even really a comedy anymore, much more serious. And so that, just like the surprise of that, I think is the best use. I do think as the fights go on, they get a little boring and repetitive. They try to keep it inventive. I really like the gag where Nick Frost says to, you know, I want you inside me, and he punches in and gets his wedding.
Yeah.
Like that's just really cool. It's really good stuff. So I think Edgar Wright does a very good job of keeping them fresh and lively, but I do think they get a little repetitive by the end of the movie.
That's a great point you made, because the first one you have the bathroom fight, and then you have the kind of a patio fight where the lady gets legs for arms, which kind of keeps it interesting. And then you have the Nick Frost grabs the chair, Andy grabs the chairs and starts beating people up with the bar stools. And then Simon Pegg's not trying to spill, or Gary is not trying to spill his drink. So yeah, they probably had to keep adding different elements to keep it fresh, which I think works to a certain degree. But yeah, I don't know. This sounds crazy, but I think the fights are like the weakest part of this film to me. But it's still like saying it's like a porterhouse or like a New York strip compared to like a filet. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. I think unnecessary fight moves take me out of movies. I don't know why. And it's, I don't know. I don't know.
From the guy who loves Deep Blue Sea 3.
Everything's necessary in that movie. Okay. Listen, the lead in that film, Dr. Emma Collins, she punches a shark, and then she's like, ah! She hurts her arm. Like, that's believable. It's, you know?
Okay, fair enough.
And if you have a genetically modified bull shark, like in a trash compactor trying to eat you, you're going to punch it.
Yeah.
And there is spin kicks in Deep Blue Sea 3 too. Okay. So I guess I don't have much ground to talk on because there's spin kicks in it.